To gather. This is live. And I'm also going live on YouTube, which we've kind of started. So for all you YouTubers who stumble across me, yay! Welcome. We are going to wait a little bit for people to join because so much of the fun is the live interaction. That's a blessing. And there's always a delay. So okay, we have people populating. Good morning. Good morning. Happy to see you. Love to hear from you. Since I'm on, or I use Restream, so it kind of helps me stream on multiple platforms. I don't always see everyone's comments. So if I miss yours, I'm so happy you're here. And good morning, Randolyn. Love to see you. Larry, you're back. I'm so glad to see you. Welcome. And welcome to everybody else as you join. So we're going to talk about change and ongoing constant. I love the paradox in that, change constant, right? And this kind of thing. So, but that's part of what makes life really hard and part of what makes life really amazing. And we've got to learn how to manage ourselves because change is always happening. It is a thing. Life is almost never static, and there are times and seasons for everything. And that makes it hard, and that makes it beautiful, and that makes it exciting. Good morning, Raymond. Always happy to see you. So let's dive right in because I've got a lot of stuff for you. So this is fun. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 3:1-9. It says, "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up." Good morning, Anissa. So happy to see you, honey. Hi, Randolyn. It's so true. We were building up, weren't we? A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Yeah, you cannot get that puppy into one breath. Oh, good morning. Is this that Alu? I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. So sorry that I butchered that, I'm sure, but welcome. Happy to have you. And so we're talking about change and ongoing constant. So initially, Ecclesiastes talks about times and seasons, and they're similar and related, but they're not the same. So a time has this concept of there's a time and there's a not time. And this has the concept of there's a red light, it is not time. There's a yellow light, we're getting ready so that that's the time, and a green light so that it is time. Run, go, do, right? And with that sort of triad, you have to be aware of what that is. If there's something, say you've got a project that you're supposed to be working on, red light, yellow light, green light. And usually, as people, depending often on your personalities, we have a tendency to either lag behind, it is time to go, and we're not going, or we're dragging our feet, or it's a time we're getting for a time and we're way out ahead. Okay. And both of those will get you into trouble. Okay. Or sometimes it's a green light, but we're not running mindfully of what it's supposed to look like. So it's not just what you're supposed to do, but it's how you're supposed to do it. And it's who you're supposed to do it with. And if we've not worked those things out, let's not run at full bore speed. Let's take some time to listen and engage. And a lot of times God will just have you go and adjust as you go. But sometimes we have a concept of what it should look like. And that concept is so loud in our minds that it's drowning out the voice of God that's saying, no, this is not it. No, that, okay, you were supposed to do that, but this is not it. Okay. So we need to be tender and open and have soft hearts that are attentive and not asleep and not hard, say with like pride or whatever, so that God can adjust us as we go. And we, the more you can start out the way God wants you to start out in the manner he wants you to start out, and usually it start out small and grow. And we have a lot of people who have a big vision and they want to start at the big vision instead of just minister to the one in front of you, right? Right? And it's great to have big vision, but it takes time to get there. And sometimes you're not there. You're supposed to minister to one or two because you don't have the infrastructure inside to handle that rightly. Maybe there's other things that need to be shored up in your life, like your relationships, your marriage, your finances, your relationship with your children. That needs to be stored up. And so we need to be very attentive to the Lord. I have experienced the Holy Spirit tug in another direction, I guess more than I expected. Boy, this is true. This is true. And so, and God also knows God's not a jerk. He's patient and kind. First attributes of love are patience and kindness, right? And he's patient and kind where we don't really know what we're doing, or we're kind of clueless, or we think we know, but we don't know, or maybe we're fearful. If you're the one that lags behind, it's probably because you're fearful. Well, I'm not enough. Well, God is like, well, yeah, but you're with me, so you're more than enough. So what's the problem? So he may need to heal these things where you feel inferior and not enough. And if everybody feels enough all the time, I think most of us struggle with not feeling enough. And some of the people that are like the most braggadocious, narcissistic personalities deep inside really feel like they're not enough. So they're overcompensating in that ditch. So anyway, however the Lord is leading you, do that. But be mindful. Be a little, this is kind of like working out your salvation with fear and trembling. So the fear is like the awe. It's just like humility to say, God, like, I think this is what it is. I'm going to step out and then just direct me and guide me, right? And he's totally healing our wounds and needs. So that is what he does. He's a healer. And that's so amazing. So that's the concept of lights: red light, green light, yellow light. Okay. The time is time. Okay. And then there's seasons. Okay. So seasons are a little bit more nebulous. Okay. Because number one, they're longer. Okay. It's not a stop, start, go or not go, stop, right? It is a longer season. A season is a season. And there's a transition. So sometimes you were in this season and then over time you're in another season. You're like, wait, how did I get there? Something's changed. And a lot of times we panic. We're like, or we start to grieve. And this is very common. If you're in a season of child rearing and then all of a sudden, like, that season's over, there's a grieving because I'm no longer in that season. And if you've had your identity too wrapped up in that, you may be like, I don't know who I am. Or maybe it's a time for a change in your career, or maybe it's time for you to retire. And you're like, well, I've had my identity wrapped up in this, and now that I'm not doing this, I don't know who I am. Okay. So this is where it's so important in part of our healing process to have our identities rooted and grounded in God. So, God is the one to tell you who you are. You're not defined by your successes. You're not defined by your failures. You're not defined by anything but the one who loved you and gave himself up for you. And that will be stable throughout your life. And hopefully, as you're growing with the Lord, that healing is working so that you are just feeling more secure in who you are, right? And loving who you are. That's part of how he's wanting to heal you, but in a humble way, right? So, right, in the way that God says. But let's take some time to meditate. Good morning, Margaret. It's good to see you, honey. Always happy when you're aboard here. You always have such great things to say. So let's meditate some on what these times and seasons are. So I'm going to sort of compare and contrast here. being born and dying, planting and plucking up, killing and healing, breaking down versus building up, weeping and mourning versus laughing and dancing, throwing away stones versus gathering stones together, embracing versus refraining from embracing, seeking versus losing, keeping versus throwing away, tearing versus sowing, keeping silent versus speaking, love versus hate, war versus peace. Ding to ding ding. That's a lot. Okay, now, okay, really important. This book is Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is ancient literature, thousands of years ago. Okay, and written by by Solomon, David's son, King David's son, and the dude did well until he really bombed. Okay, all right, and understand that he had a revelation of God, but his revelation of God only went so far, like all of us. Okay. So when he's writing the scripture, it's coming from a mindset. Jesus has not yet gone to the cross. He doesn't have a revelation of oneness. He doesn't have a revelation of forgiveness for all sins. He doesn't have a forgiveness, a revelation of no condemnation in Christ. He doesn't have a revelation of God as a healer versus a punisher. He doesn't have a revelation of there being limitless resources, although certainly if anybody seemed like they had that, he did. So we don't have to go to war. He doesn't have a revelation of love, which keeps no records of wrongs, all of these things. And so we need to come up. So how does this impact us today? Because I guarantee you, God is not into killing. He's not into war. He's not into hate. He's not into, let's see, breaking down. He's not into plucking up, and he's definitely not into dying. So what does this all mean? Well, allegorically, he's very much into those things, but we got to look at what the right things is. So what should die? What should be killed? What should be broken down? What should be, let me make sure I get them here, thrown away? What should be torn? What should be hated? What should we be at war with? Because these are definite things. So what should we? I'm so glad you asked. Okay, I asked for you, but you were thinking. I know you're tracking, and you're so smart. You're just coming along here. Okay, so these are ways. God, let me just be clear. God has no enemies that are people. His enemies are sin, death, and Satan, and they've all been defeated. Isn't that incredible? So God, the world has already been reconciled. So if you're an unbeliever doing wicked things, serving idols, serving Satan, you're not God's enemy, but you're acting as if you are. Okay, because all things have been forgiven. Let's see. I totally relate to this. This is Raymond. I felt inferior to everyone most of my life and recovered from that the last handful of years. Isn't that amazing? Now, doesn't that inspire you? Because Raymond, this was your whole life. And then the last couple of years, and you're not in your 20s. You love who you are. So which means we all can do this thing. And honestly, I have a very similar testimony. I was like the poster child, not the only one. So I don't like to act like I was the most broken ever. But seriously broken and insecure. I love being me. And I hope you love being you, because you're supposed to, right? Okay, so let's go back. So what does God, so if God's enemies are sin, hell, death, and Satan, what are we supposed to war against? Well, anything that's of that, or that's causing that brokenness. So there's versions of you that need to go. And in all of us, I'm sorry, I make it sound like it's just you. It's all of us. If you're a human being, there are parts of you that want to kill. There's parts of you that want to murder. I mean, I'm just saying, if we're honest, I think if we were all put in extreme circumstances, we could do horrific things. Okay. Yeah. So you're in your 40s. So in your 40s, Raymond, you started loving yourself and not being insecure. And it's a process, right? But so yay, you. I love that. So there are parts inside us that are really ugly. And a lot of times we stuff them down, especially if we're good little Christians, we stuff them down, right? Or whatever. They're parts of us that want to see someone get theirs. And when they do, we are so happy. Okay, we do not know what spirit we are of. There, and we call it justice. Okay, and we justify to ourselves like that's okay. There's, excuse me, there's parts. Give me a second. Everyone, take a drink. We can all hydrate together. Okay, hold on. Okay. So there's parts of us that want a war. There's parts of us that are jealous. There's parts of us that are lustful. And I'm not saying they're not true. They're who you are, but they're ways of being. And we all got them. Okay. It's not a nature. It's not who you are. You are beautiful and gorgeous, without spot and blemish, holy before God, one with God. This is how he created you in your original design. And the fall did not take that away, but it sure buried it. And these ways of being that have buried that are not conformed into the image of Christ, those puppies have to go. They have to die. They have to be plucked up. They have to be killed or healed. They have to be broken down. They have to be thrown away. They have to be refrained from embracing. They have to be lost. They have to be torn away. They have to be unyielded to. I'm not going to yield to hate. I'm not going to yield to war. But I am going to war against these things because they're not even of me. And there's also things we need to war against that are injustice, like sex trade. Yeah, baby, we need to war against that. Racism, sexism, on either side, by the way, because it's not just sexism towards women, it's sexism towards men. We can be nasty on both directions. And all the isms we do need to war against, but we're not warring against people. Right? We're not against flesh and blood, but principalities, powers, rulers of wickedness in this world, and wickedness in heavenly places. I said that wrong, but you know what I said. Someone will correct it and put that up there and make that right. Thank you for that. Okay, right? So we're not warring against people. And as a matter of fact, God can be really annoying because he's going to insist on us doing the hard thing, actually doing the impossible thing. And that's hard. Let's talk about that a little bit. So Romans 12:9 says, let the inner movement of your heart always be to love one another. Man, if you listen to me for 5 minutes, it's going to be love, 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 love. And you know what? When we get it, I'll stop preaching on it. Okay. I mean, it's a thing. Love is as big as God, which means it's endless and which means it's ecstatic. So this is that. And love looks like a lot of things. And love does not look like a lot of things. But that's our commandment. And never play the role of an actor wearing a mask. And this is where in our security, we need to be who we are and not hypocritical, not put on a show. Oh God, that's so annoying, right? Right? It says despise evil. Okay, here's what we despise. And embrace everything that is good and virtuous. So we have the green light from God to despise evil. But let me just ask you, is evil a person? If you say Satan, okay, you can despise him. I'm talking about people. Is evil a person? Okay, so, Jeffrey Dahmer, okay, like murdering, serial murderer, eating people. Okay, this is evil. Okay, is he intrinsically evil? Do we need to despise him? No, we need to despise the evil that he became, this way of being that became so perverted and evil that it was able to do this. So do we despise Hitler? No, we despise all of the things that, all of these ways of being that were not how we were created. And we need to despise that in us. Okay. But that means it's not a person, not a human being we're despising. But we need to embrace everything that is good and virtuous. One of the ways God heals, and that we are to be a partner in that healing, is to embrace the good and virtuous in the midst of the ugly and fallen, in the midst of evil ways of being. And I'm not saying, if Jeffrey Dahmer's walking around, please don't invite him to your house. Don't do that. And I know he's kind of born again. We'll leave that. But I'm just saying, if Adolf Hitler materialized, please do not invite him into your house. All right. But because there's wisdom, we do need boundaries with toxic people. Okay. But calling out what is good and virtuous and true, really true about what God, because what God says trumps everything else. Okay. In that person is how we call them up higher. And it gives them a window to become that, even if it's 20 years later. Okay. It gives them a window because love never fails. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. So let's go to Matthew 5 43, 44. It says, I love this. This is Jesus. It says, you have heard that it is said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. And everybody's going, yeah. All right, let's keep reading. Because that's how the world is. And that's honestly how we actually feel in these fallen ways of ourselves, right? But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Oh, Jesus, really? Okay, that dude, I can do that one, but no, that's oh God. Okay. No, it's everything. And this is where literally we actually die to ourselves. When we are refusing to hate our enemy and wish them destruction, wish vengeance on them, have them get theirs. Okay. And this enemy may have been someone who decimated your life and the lives of millions, Hitler, Stalin, okay, or whatever, or just your life. Okay. It may take a lifetime to do that. Okay. I get it. This is not a flippant thing, but this is where we're heading. And the standard never lowers. Dang it. But it never does. And so this is God's healing process. And this is where literally our flesh is being crucified. The evil parts of our ways of being, not a nature that's already been dealt with. The old man is dead, but the ways of our being that want to hate my enemy and I hope they fry and get theirs. And I'm going to sit there and gloat while they do it. Okay, that puppy needs to go. And it's surprising how much of that is still in us. If we're honest. So we're on this road. This is part of what being conformed in the image of Christ. And that means I have to hate that part of myself and kill that part of myself that says, hi, I want this. I want them to get it. I want them to die and I want them to suffer while they're doing it. Okay. All right. If that rises up on me, like, ooh, that goes on the fires of love right there to be burned up. Right. And so this is us partnering with God. But you know what it is? I mean, it is a high watermark. Like, how do we do that? Right. Because there are people that are decimating people and movements that are decimating lives. Okay. The movements. Okay. You can go ahead and hate that. Mm-hmm. There may not be, but also realize that in those movements, there's probably something that's actually good in there too. It's not all black or white. Okay. But the people that are acting like that, lower awareness, you got it. Yes, absolutely. The people that are acting like that, you know what? They're your brothers and sisters. See, God has no enemies because he's already been reconciled. His enemies that are people. Okay, sin, death, Satan. Okay, enemies. Okay, but that's not you or me or Jeffrey Dahmer or Adolf Hitler or pick a card, any card, or the one that trashed your life, spat on you, peed on you, mocked you, and abandoned you. Okay, that one stole a son or daughter of God. Okay, and it's hard, and you may not be ready, and it's okay, but at some point, that's going to be something to get rid of, to kill, to whatever. Okay, and it's a journey. It's okay. No condemnation. Wherever you're at, there's no condemnation, but God's not going to let you off the hot seat, or me. Okay, that's a thing, because you're way too gorgeous to let you be less than who you are. Okay, so let's talk about one that is always was like, what? What do you mean? Always confuse me. So I figure if it confused me, it probably confused you. What is this throwing away stones versus gathering stones together? Like, what is that? Like, we're playing a game? Like, okay. So, if we look at what prophetically, remember this is poetry, this is allegory. So, I mean, if you've got a stonemasonry project, okay, maybe that is literal, but okay. But what do stones represent prophetically? Okay. Negative connotations would be the flesh. And I'm not talking about your body. Your body's precious and good. It's not evil. Okay. Your God sacrificed for it. It's evil. It's good. It's not evil. It's good. Okay. A hardened, dead heart. Okay. Or a bitter heart. Blockage of the heart, of refusal, pride, hardness. The law of Moses. Remember, the law of Moses was written on tablets of stone. Death. A stumbling offense that causes you to stumble. A negative witness and judgment. Okay. Those are negative connotations. So let's review. So your flesh, we've talked about it. Those ways of being that are not who you really are. Okay. Mindsets, strongholds, addictions, destructive ways of being. Okay. A hardened, dead heart. Okay. So what's that heart? The one that refuses to forgive, the one that's bitter, the one that's cynical, the one that despises, the one that wants vengeance, the one that maybe has been so beaten up that it doesn't want to take another breath. Okay. The law of Moses. I mean, those are written on stones. That the law of Moses is the law of sin and death. Okay, you sin, you die. Dang. Okay, great. Right, where you're trying to earn your own righteousness. That puppy's going to go. It's like when you make brownies. If you put a little bit of poop in the brownies, that's like the law of Moses, right? It spoils the whole batch. How much poop do you want to tolerate in the brownies? Just are we talking 1%? We're talking 0.001. If you know there's 0.001% in the brownies of poop, would you eat the brownies? I hope not. And that's how the law is. When it comes in, it just contaminates. It's like the leaven that spoils the whole batch. Okay. Right. And that's what happens. So a little bit of law with grace and love and truth, boom, messes that puppy up. It needs to go. Okay. All right. A stumbling offense, being offended. And we're so freaking offended in our culture. It's like I'm pre-offended. You haven't said anything. I'm already mad at you. Right. And we start to project onto people all these things like you're hierarchical or you're racist or you're a bigot or you're lascivious or you're sinful or you're intolerant. We've got finger pointing all over the place. We are so freaking pre-offended. We're arguing about vaccines. Right? We are just poor us. Thank you, Jesus, for and there's a lot of pain behind that. So it's not like it's not valid, but when we generalize and see people through those lenses, we are stumbling over the block of offense. If there's someone that you're saying, I will never forgive that person. Okay. That's not going to go well with you because forgiveness is your freedom, right? And we become bitter, right? It's just not happy and not healthy. A negative witness. This is the accuser. You did this and you did this and you did this and you did this, right? Ooh, guess who's called the accuser of the brethren? Dang it, Satan, right? This is where we don't know what spirit we're of. Send judgment. Send him, kill him, go get him, God. Sick God on him. And God's like, I'm going to love you. Sick God on there is going to love him. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, judging one another, right? Anytime we're partnering with accusation and judgment, as if like we know we're sitting in the seat of God and I see everything. I know what's going on. I know why you did that. And you're bad and you're evil and you're sinful and you're good. And it's just gross, whichever way we do this, right? Self-righteousness. So those are stones that need to go. I kind of lost my place here. And Thank you. There we go. Okay, positive connotations for stones. What are the stones that we're supposed to gather together? Okay. The rock, Jesus, the Christ, Father, Holy Spirit, God is the stone that we live and stand on. It holds, it's eternal. It undergirds us. It is not shaken. Though the mountains be removed and cast in the sea, right? I shall not fear. All of that, right? A positive witness. These are the cheerleaders in your life that actually see you and maybe call you up from sinful ways of being, from fallen ways of being, right? Like, you did this and you did this. And let me just remind you, now that you're so down on yourself and you've forgotten who you are and you're just beating yourself up, let me just remind you how amazing and beautiful and gorgeous you are, how powerful you are, how when I see you, I'm inspired. And what a difference it's made. And these are the ones that bear witness to the truth of who you are. We need those people. We need those cheerleaders. And I hope I'm a cheerleader for you. And a memorial of what God has done. So these are, oh, there he goes. He is my strong rock and my fortress, my tower. Absolutely run to him. Absolutely. Isn't that great? Because life is crazy. Life changes. It's like, whoo, right? The ongoing constant of change. And so he doesn't change, right? He doesn't change. Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. Actually, next week, we're going to talk about the constancy of God. So that'll be a good one. If you're feeling quaky right now, that'll be really good for you. So join me for that next week. Let's see. And memorials of what God has done. Where has God like genuinely come through for me? All of us are like, oh God, okay, we're praying, we're waiting, we're believing, we're standing on something. We're standing on a healing, or standing on a provision, or standing on a deliverance, or standing on something. Because we all know, dang, we have not been conformed to the image of Christ yet. My life does not look abundant to the full, till it overflows in every single area. There's a higher level to go and everything. So there's more. And when we're in a pain point or a lack or something, look to where he's come through for you. Where is he? The Israelites had, it was so wise. Like, he split the sea and we got through. He had manna in the wilderness, all these different things that God actually came through. So we don't get in this like, God is, when is the last time God did? We can get really ungrateful while we're waiting for our next breakthrough. And ungrateful people are miserable people. Do you see miserable people? A lot of them are ungrateful. And that's actually a lot of the younger generations. But, I'm trying to think. I was kind of ungrateful when I was younger too, so I'm not being nasty. Let's see here. I try to spread the message to everyone. They are enough and they matter. Yes, you get down with your bad self, Raymond. I love that. Oh, hello. Hi there, watching from India. I have 2 India people. I love that. So welcome. So glad to see you. I hope everything's going well your way. Give me an update with how things are going. My screen keeps on blacking out. I'm not sure what's going on there. Okay, so what does this mean? We're supposed to throw away stones of the flesh, things that are not worthy of who we are, right? Things that harden our hearts, bitterness, fear, judgment, all the things I talked about already. I don't have to say that again. The tyranny of the law of Moses. Throw it away. That is not what we're supposed to be under. We're not earning our righteousness. We are not. I'm so glad to hear you are fine. Thank you so much. Anything under the law. Remember when I said a little bit, it's like poop in the brownies, right? So, throw out the dang brownies, right? Okay, throw it out. Make a new batch, right? Michelle Ojeda, this is what we were talking about last month, letting go of those things that harden our hearts. Yay, we're tracking on the same things. Isn't that true? I love that. So isn't that fun? Because that means God is speaking to his kids. Speak. It's so great. And we're tracking, we're resonating with the same frequency of Holy Spirit. I love that. Thank you for that. Bless me, Anissa. You always bless me. So those things that harden our hearts, right? Unbelief, big heart, like when we just refuse. So, when we have unbelief, what do we do? It's like, God, I'm sorry, I can't believe you right here. Help me believe. I believe, help my unbelief. And you know what? He does. He helps us. Wherever it breaks down, he helps you, which is, thank you, Jesus, right? Um, let's see. Sorry, I keep on moving my place because I get excited. So we're supposed to let go of our offenses against God, against others, against ourselves. We get offended with ourselves. Anything that brings death, right? No brownies for DCI Tim Barnaby. That's my sweetheart right there. Yeah, we've been watching Midsummer Murders, and anyway, yes, no, and that's right. He just had brownies, and the last thing, yeah, they had some marijuana in it, whatever, but not poop. But yeah, shouldn't have been there. So thank you, sweetheart. That blessed me, and you probably just totally threw me off my thing here. But that's okay. Ooh, I love my sweetie. He's so amazing. You're awesome. Okay. All right. Throwing away condemnation and judging ourselves and one another. Those things, they just need to drop kick those puppies, right? And we need God's help to do it, because sometimes we just feel so right and we want to hold on to it. And let me say this about God. Let me just help you here. If you're having a hard time casting away some of these stones, because it's hard. Like forgiving and loving and blessing my enemies. Like, what? You mean the one that destroyed my life? Yeah. So, it takes time, and he's not going to, whatever we're holding on, he's not going to pry your fingers, but he is going to stay there with you to help. Well, honey, can you relax your fists? Because vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. You see, God misses nothing. So every place that you had reason to be angry and hurt and enraged and tempted to be bitter and maybe gotten bitter and shut down, God is patient and kind, right? But he's not going to stop. Okay. Because you're too beautiful to let that unworthiness stay there, and it's poisoning your life, and it poisons people around you, right? Okay. Things you need to throw away, things we need to embrace, treasure, memorialize, are all the things that God has done and who he is. This is why we go over and over and over and over and over every day. God, the goodness of God, the loveliness of God, what the finished work of the cross means, our union with God, the fact that he loved us and gave himself up for us, that he never leaves us and forsakes us, the one that provides for all of our needs according to his riches and glory. And then we focus on all the things that is, the word has become flesh. We focus on all of that. Okay. I'm sorry, look at that brownie thing again. I'm sorry. It's just totally distracted. That is, those are the things that we hold on to, right? They cling to, right? Um, uh, so, and that will help you when you're in a hard spot. That will help you maybe relax. I remember, I'm going to share something. So I had a vision one time, and you may or may not, if you read my Mark by Love book, you read this, but it's such a good, and it's so vision, it's apropos to share here. I was in hell. I had a time when, like literally, God brought me to hell in this vision, and I was like, oh crap, I'm back here. And it wasn't that I was being punished; it was that lessons in hell. Like, if you can get this in hell, you can get this in the hell in your life, right? And whatever. So I'm on the banks of this massive river, and it's full of lava. Think of what is that? Lord of the Rings, right? Think of that. Perfect. Okay. And it's massive, and I'm looking all around. I'm like, oh God, I'm back. Okay. Okay. I'm supposed to learn something. Settle down, Captain. So I'm supposed to learn Jesus is right there. If I make my bed in the midst of hell, even you are there. So Jesus is right there. And I'm like, oh, okay, settle down, Catherine. Okay, there's something you want to teach me. So I settle down. I'm honing into Jesus, and we're communicating not with words, but just with our minds. And I just knew I was supposed to jump in that river. I'm like, I know you said that, Jesus. And so I kind of dicker with Jesus. Hi, Elspeth. Oh, I love that. Good evening to you too. Thank you for joining. You're from New Zealand, is that right? Did I get that right, or did I mess that up? So update me, and update all of us, because we want to get to know each other. It's our community, right? So I'm supposed to be jumping into this river of lava according to Jesus, and I sort of dicker with Jesus. I'm like, Jesus, are you coming in with me? Well, he doesn't say anything. Well, sometimes when God doesn't say anything, it's because you've asked the wrong question. So he's waiting me to have like the right question, and really what it is plumb what's actually really going on in my heart. And I go, okay, I write like, Jesus, is it going to be okay? And Jesus, he reels around. Like when Jesus reels around, it's a thing. And he grabs me by the shoulders, staring me smack dab in the eyes. And he says, you know me. This gets me every time. And I'm like, yeah, I do. So I hike up my skirts. Always cracks me up they have skirts in hell, right? Um, and I dive into this river of lava. Okay. The moment my head goes under, bam, I'm on the side of the shore with Jesus. And the whole scene is transformed. It's like heaven. It's like the Garden of Eden. There's a waterfall. It's this crystal gorgeous river life and vegetation and animals. It's just gorgeous. And Jesus says to me, he says, because you are willing to die to yourself, I have given you power to transform hell into the Garden of Eden. And so now this is not just for me. So I just want to be clear that this is the manifestations of the sons of God. I love the fact that you guys are having conversations. This is great. This is like all of you. Like this is us being conformed into the image of Christ. And when you're conformed in the image of Christ, you're safe to give resurrection power, to release dunamis power. Listen, you don't give the keys to the Lamborghini to a 4-year-old. Okay. So this is about death to the false self, right? The self that wants to hate, the self that is vainglorious, the self that's all of that. Okay. Right. And so this is what God does. This is what he releases. And so this is part of the change that he's constantly working in us. I have so lost my place. But this is what he empowers. And you know why? Because you're knowing him more and more. You can do all of this because ultimately it's an issue of trust. Ultimately, it's an issue of trust. Can I trust you, Jesus? Jesus, can I trust you that you asked me to jump in a river of lava, that it's not going to be okay, it's going to be really good. Okay, now please do not do this at home, okay? You have not gotten a directive from God. This was a vision for Catherine, but it was representing something. You see, these are the fires of love that crucify, that kill everything that's not of love's kind, right? So if love is a consuming fire, what does love consume? Everything that's not of love's kind. And when you so the first scene was an illusion. Well, it was a vision. I would say it was illusion because that makes it sound like it wasn't real. It was very real. But it was representing something, that a process of what he does to us as we are yielding to crucify everything that's not of ourselves, our true selves, and of God. Okay, we're not the savior, so we don't want to get some funky thing. We recognize the old man is dead, but the strongholds, the mind, will, and emotions, personalities in our bodies have a lot of healing to do. We got a lot of perverted ways of being, perverse ways of being, ways that want to hold on to envy and strife and all of that. Yeah. So it was a vision. So please do not do this at home. The point of that was that you can do whatever he has before you in the time you have, in the season you have, because you know him. And if he's asking you to lay something down, you're able to right now. Okay. See, those are the things we kill, we crucify, all the different things that I was talking about, right? We break down, we pull up, we throw away, we refrain from embracing, we tear away, we hate, and we war with. The things are not as we truly are. So I hope that was clear. If you hopped on kind of in the middle of that could have been weird. So feel free to rewind. Okay, after this is over. So this is not easy. But it's doable because you're a son and daughter of God, right? It's God who works all the time, who's in you, one with you, energizing, creating in you the power and desire to will and to work for his good pleasure, satisfaction, delight. Yes, our faults, our self-awareness, or maybe our self-awareness of the false self, because you want to be aware of the true self. That's in the image and likeness of God. And that's not self-consciousness in terms of insecurity. That is the self. Like, I'm aware that I'm a daughter. And because I'm a daughter, I can actually get my eyes off myself and really focus on other people, right? Absolutely. Good job. I love that. I love it. These are great stuff. And we can do this because we know God, right? Or we know him more and we're learning more and more. He's patient and kind. So if there's something he's asking us to loosen our grip on, we can do that as we trust him more and more, right? And he's so amazing with that. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says he has made everything beautiful and appropriate in its time. You see, this is what he's doing. He's beautifying. He's making it appropriate. He's making it what it should be. He's making us what we should, but what we already are. Okay. So we already are that, but we're working that out. We're working out our salvation, right? With fear and trembling. Our original design is being manifest. This is the unveiling of the manifestation of the sons of God. This is us being conformed in the image of Christ. All of these things are essentially saying the same thing from a different angle, right? And we can do that because of what God has done. Let's see, did I lose my, that's so weird. Hold on a second. I'm having technical problems. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's not letting me access that. I don't access that. I'm having technical problems. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Okay. Because I really want to share this verse with you. Hold on a second. Yeah, that's so weird. I've never done that before. Okay, so we can do that because God is in the business of transforming us, conforming us, and empowering us. He is in Isaiah 61, he is sent, Jesus was sent to bind the brokenhearted. So there's things that are broken that need binding and healing, right? To proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners. This is them escaping and releasing things, embracing the right things and releasing the old things, right? Not staying in that dang jail cell that's locked from the inside. To provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, right? He wants to say, honey, give me your ashes. No, you're holding on to the ashes as if the ashes are all there is. No, honey, that's not all there is. Release your ashes. Okay, can you release a couple particles of ash? Okay, let me give you some beauty for that. And there is this ongoing upgrade that you have, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of despair, right? So this is why we can do this, right? This is why in our seasons that we're literally required to leave things behind, or to kill something. Or, leaving, like, if you're out of the child rearing season, you've got to say goodbye to that. That's a grieving, right? The empty nest, that syndrome, that is grieving. If you have to retire, that's grieving. Like, and if your identity was rooted and grounded in that, it's going to be hard for you. Like, who am I now that I'm not doing this, right? Or now that I am doing this, right? And we have to realize that we're engaging with a God who is love, who empowers us to do all those things. And there's a wooing into the next season. So I'm going to read this next one. I just want you to let it bathe you. Song of Solomon's 2:10, 11, and 13. This is poetry that peels forth with God towards you, his bride, his best friend. It says, the one I love calls to me. That's Jesus. Arise, my dearest. Hurry, my darling. Come away with me. I have come as you have asked, to draw you to my heart and lead you out. For now is the time, my beautiful one. The season has changed. The bondage of your barren winter has ended, and the season of hiding is over and gone. The rains have soaked the earth. Can you not discern this new day of destiny breaking forth around you? The early signs of my purposes and plans are bursting forth. The budding vines of new life are now blooming everywhere. The fragrance of their flowers whispers, there is change in the air. Arise, my love, my beautiful companion, and run with me to the higher place. For now is the time to arise and come away with me. Wow. Wow. Isn't that beautiful? Yay. So maybe it's a season of that. Maybe you're sort of dormant right now. Whatever that is, engage with God. What do I need to embrace? What do I need to release? And God will bring you through into something gorgeous, because that's just who he is. Anyway, I hope this has been a blessing for you today. Listen, if you haven't, if you're not following me on Facebook, can you do that? And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you could do that, that would be great. That will just allow me to be able to be able to share this message more with more people. Also, share this if you're on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, share that as well. I really appreciate that. And thank you for hanging with me. It's been fun. You guys are amazing. Hey, listen, next week, same bat time, same bat channel. That's 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I will be talking about the ongoing constancy of God. And I thank you. Thank you for the love. And I just give it right back. This is a little love fest. We love that. Have a fabulous day. Love you guys. Bye-bye.